The ocean is full of situations where animals work together toward a common goal. Whether it's finding food, fighting off predators, or setting up a place to live, it's important to pick your underwater teammate carefully. However, while its sea cucumber partner is less than willing to participate, the persuasive pearlfish worms its way into the heart of its new best friend whenever danger rears its ugly pinhead. But sometimes, being a prairie dog and pearlfish is the way to survive here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. And a very special thank you to our patrons, to Jesse Raspolich, Carol Raspolich, Richard Kaspar, and Lottie and Aubrey. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
And today we're talking about an assertive, insertive fish in the sea. But more on that later.
B, insertive. B, insertive. I'm not about to try to spell that. B-A-N. Yeah, this one, I went to Bibby and I was like, this is the animal we're doing. And she was like, get ready for some nicknames.
Oh boy. I'm excited.
So we got some good ones. But what animal are we talking about?
We're talking about the pinhead pearlfish.
I wanted to, because I know that kids listen to this, and we typically do a content warning. So I figured this is a good time to do one for this episode. I'm going to try to keep this as tactful as possible, use euphemisms, beat around the bush, But the reality is, this is nature's not always G-rated. So if you don't want little ears listening to some of the more invasive things that animals do to each other, then this episode may not be for you.
Yeah.
And I'll give you some of our nicknames just so you get an idea of what we're talking about. So the pinhead pearlfish is also called the colon dwarf, the bum buster, the trailer tush, the curse of the brown pearl, because they do everything but pillaging. The close encounters of the turd kind, G.I. Joe, and dirty dentist just looking for those cavities.
Oh my god.
Get excited, because it's gonna get weird.
Okay. Do you want to know what science calls it?
Yeah, for those that are left.
I think some people are going to be interested. This is not... I mean, at least the creatures here are very far away from... They're not mammals. So they're far away from us in terms of anatomy. So, okay. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about where they are. They're in the kingdom, love and are in. They're in the kingdom Animalia. They're in the phylum Chordata, the class Actinopterygii. The order is Ophidiiformes. The family is Caripidae. The genus is that's probably a hard C. Enchiliophis.
I don't know. I would say
Enchiela.
I would say a hard
fish.
Because we have like Chelicerata for spiders.
That's true.
So I would say
Chordata.
And Enchiliophis.
Encheliaphus. Yeah, the computer lady, the computer voice says
Yeah, it's the E,
Encheliaphus.
but like we don't always get a you don't always get a hard ch with E, but like chemical, but it's Latin, you know.
The
Or no, I think this is Greek. So
the binomial name, the species, Encheliaphus boraborensis.
yeah. Well, since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, nitty gritty nomenclature.
You mean it's not just it's in a school?
Yes,
It's just in a school.
It's a fish, and I still those ichthyologists. They just really did not want critter groups to be successful for fish episodes.
I am pro ichthyologists because they have a good head on their shoulders. They said, you know what? We not only do we have the word group, which is just fine for groups of animals, but you know what? We have school. Let's call it a day on that.
Yeah,
let's not waste everyone's time.
Yeah, I'm sure they're like just tons of fun at the taxonomic parties. But anyway,
that's different. You're saying taxonomy. There's plenty of pizzazz in the taxonomy. Terms of venery is not taxonomy.
It's a categorization. You know you're dealing with owls because there's the parliament of them, of course.
I know I'm dealing with owls because there's owls there in that group.
But there's also a parliament. It's just it just helps, you know? All right. But anyway, we don't have the term of venery for fish is a school or a shoal. Depending on how they're moving. We talked about this before. I believe a school is the one where they're all moving together, and a shoal is where they happen to just be in a group. So I couldn't find what boraborensis means. I imagine maybe it has something to do with the place, Bora Bora. But I couldn't find any sort of translation for that, but I could for Encheliaphus. So the genus is Encheliaphus, and the behavior of the pinhead pearlfish is it's on the genus level. All of the members of this genus do the same thing. So what does Encheliaphus mean in English, Joe? Does it mean A, snake-like eel, or serpentine eel, I guess you could say? B, thin fish, C, black swimmer, or D, old serpent?
Thin fish. I want to go with thin fish. Final answer.
That's incorrect.
Dang it. Is it old serpent? Because
No,
that's awesome.
It is serpentine eel,
Ugh.
or snake-like eel.
I was hoping if it was at least the old one, the old serpent.
I know, it does look like an eldritch deity.
The primordial presence.
Or it does sound like that. And if this was the behavior of an eldritch deity, to be honest, I wouldn't be that surprised.
But that would be pretty existentially dreadful.
That would be very Lovecraftian, I suppose.
It would be. Now, would you like to know what it looks like?
Sure.
The pinhead pearlfish is a thin, pointed, and snake-like fish. It is a thin fish. And it likes to eat thin mints. Probably not.
Me too.
Probably too spicy. It has small eyes and star-shaped color-changing pigment cells called melanophores. Mint melanophores. This is a very mint-themed episode.
So tasty.
Near their jaws and on some of their fins. And these melanophores are more abundant in older fish. The pearlfish doesn't have scales or pelvic fins. They do have actual short pectoral fins and an elongated dorsal fin. It's a brown fish. The Wikipedia describes this color as medium brown. You mean just brown? It's not dark brown or light brown. It's just brown.
No, it's medium brown. There's no pink in the middle. Cooked all the way through.
It's the brownest fish in the sea. It's just a medium brown.
Yeah, that is the definition of mediocrity in a color, I guess. Medium brown.
There's a time and a place for brown, I'll have you know. I've heard that cars that are brown are the coolest cars.
Oh, have you? I heard that coats that are brown are the coolest coats.
That's true. I like brown coats. It's a brown fish with a solid color body it has an enlarged swim bladder, which occupies most of the inside of its body cavity. That's not really, you can't really tell that from looking at it, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So, but how big is it? Welcome to the Blood Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send it out of yourself saying, singing, or chittering. The words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We don't have any measure up intro this week, which means we get to hear from a fish. Carlos can guess who it is. What are we calling this? Critter Cultural Corner? Culture of animals?
I don't remember landing on anything for this.
We didn't land on anything.
The Critter Cultural Corner.
I don't want to call it critter because there's already critter groups.
Yeah. Creature culture.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Or cultural creatures, because creature culture sounds like what do red pandas do when they get together.
Creature comforts, it reminds me of.
Cultural creatures. That sounds like, okay, when animals enter the zeitgeist.
All right. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
Where's my drink?
What drink?
My drink? My Diet Dr. Kelp? Don't tell me you forgot my drink!
But you didn't order any.
How am I supposed to eat this pizza without my drink?
That sounds like the guy who does Plankton.
That's good instincts because that is Customer, a fish voiced by Doug Lawrence in the SpongeBob Pizza Delivery episode. And Doug Lawrence is the voice of Plankton.
Yeah, he sounds like a totally normal person until he starts to lose his mind. But don't we all?
That's true. Let's talk about their length. They have a length of 30 centimeters or 12 inches. How many pinhead pearlfish go into the length of the Pearl of Puerto? Pearl of Door.
Pearl of Door. Or Port.
Where do you think Pearl of Door comes from? What country,
Latin America?
what hemisphere? Incorrect. It's from the Philippines. The Pearl of Puerto is from the Philippines.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of places that speak Spanish in the Eastern Hemisphere, and then there's almost the entirety of the Western Hemisphere. So the guess was pretty strong on the West.
So here's a hint. We've talked about the Giga Pearl in the Atlantic Bay Scallop episode, but that was the largest non-nacreous pearl, which is made of calcium. But the Pearl of Puerto is also not a true pearl because it is not iridescent. Just a big white chunk. And as legend has it, it was found by a fisherman in the Philippines who found it in still inside its giant clam. The fisherman kept it for 10 years and would rub it for good luck, which yielded excellent fishing trips for him. When he conveniently happened to have a relative who worked as the tourism officer in Puerto Princesa, He gave it to her when he decided to move. I think this is all BS, but it's still a big pearl, and that's cool. There's the legendary fisherman who just happened to donate this giant thing to the tourism office.
Yeah, I mean, I like how it brought him good luck on his fishing trips, but if he had sold it, he wouldn't have had to go on fishing trips in the first place.
Yeah, probably not. Probably the real thing. If it is fake, I would have. If the tourism department made this up, I would have made up something better. Like intrigue and like it was actually an ancient. It was like an old. It was found in an old Spanish treasure chest that was buried in the Philippines long ago.
We had to kill an army of zombie conquistadors to get to it.
Yes.
Well, now I know how to fool you, is just come up with a bad story. I'll just read you the script to The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi probably happened, because if it was made up, it would have been better.
If you can't make this up because it's just that bad. I'm going to say it's 2 feet. It was still in a clam, wasn't it? I mean, I guess
a giant clam.
Some of those clams, yeah, get to be like 6 feet long. I'll say 2 feet. That's fine. So 2. Dos, to put it in, Philippine language.
Do they speak Spanish in the Philippines?
There are large swaths of Spanish-speaking communities in the Philippines. I don't think it's their. I think Tagalog is their official language, and most people speak that. But there are big Spanish communities in there.
Tagalog, yep. Another Girl Scout cookie.
It's not that far from the American Samoa.
Is it not? It's not Tagalog though, right? It's Tagalong.
Yeah, it's Tagalong. Tagalong is the peanut butter cookie.
Final answer 2.
Yes.
The correct answer is 2.2 fish.
Yes.
The Pearl of Puerto is 2.2 feet or 67 centimeters long.
I didn't exactly stick the landing, but it's still a victory.
Is it an A?
2.2? Yeah, it's a 90.
There you go. You can be a nurse with a 90. Let's talk about living depths, as we do with fish, because who cares what they weigh? They live in the water.
But the thing is, how much a fish weighs is like one of the major measurements that fishermen use. So it is interesting that there are very few fish, at least that we cover, where their weight is known. But you don't.
I think when they're less than a pound, no one cares.
Yeah, maybe. You also don't fish for these fish.
That you're right. They live at 150 meters or 490 feet.
490.
How many pinhead pearlfish depths go into the height of the highest elevation mountain on Io, a moon of Jupiter?
I went there in Destiny.
Here's a hint.
Okay, go.
Io is a moon known for its extreme volcanic activity. It is also slightly larger than Earth's moon. Recent photographs from NASA's Juno spacecraft were released that show brilliant images of Io. If you want a link to those pictures, go to ldtaxonomy.com/ probably, maybe, I don't know,
Pearlfish.
Something with just go to it'll be just search pinhead pearlfish.
Yeah. The length of or the height of the tallest volcano, you said, right? Or mountain.
Mm-hmm. The highest elevation mountain.
15,000 feet. Because I feel like if it was like an Everest on the moon, it would make it pretty oblong to look at.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say half an Everest, or a little less than half. 30 living depths.
Final answer?
Yes.
The correct answer is 117 pearlfish living depths.
Wow.
The mountains at South Busole Montes are around 10.9 miles or 17.5 kilometers.
Wow.
How tall is Everest?
50-something thousand feet. Everest is like 30-something thousand
8,800 meters.
Yeah, I always know Everest is like 32,000
Oh,
feet
yeah.
or something like that.
Oh, what? There's no way. You're right. The elevation must be from like the crust when it's on this moon. Because Everest is 5.4 miles. And this is 10?
Yeah, it's a 50,000 foot mountain you just described. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't change the silhouette of a planet as much as we thought,
Well, that's what I'm
satellite
thinking.
as we
Maybe
thought.
like they're measuring it from the lowest elevation. I don't know.
Or
What's
maybe
bottom?
Maybe it's
There's
like
no sea level.
pointing at us, so it doesn't really change its silhouette.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Io's 10-mile-high mountains result from shrinking crust. Okay, so it is a geological thing that... Wow. Okay, yeah.
The whole moon is imploding, but it's making the mountains stand out more.
Cosmic geology. It's always unpredictable. See, again, I wrote down the thing, and I'm surprised by my own math. And I second guess, and it turns out to be right. Because you know why? I was using the internet and calculators to do this.
Well, that was not a nursing school victory for me. I was way off.
Would you like to talk about some fast facts before we get into the major fact?
Sure.
The pinhead pearlfish lives in the tropical Indo-Pacific Ocean. They may be found around Mauritius. I feel like I'm saying that wrong.
Mauritius, I think is
Mauritius. Yeah, that looks better. That sounds better. And the Society Islands, Taiwan, the Yaeyama Islands. Fun looking word to say. They also can be found in the Mariana Islands and the Caroline Islands. They are ray-finned fish, also called actinopterygians. Guess what family they're in?
You mean class?
Guess what class they're in? Which means that their fins are supported by long spines, which are called rays. Not to be confused with the animals, which are also called rays that live in the ocean.
And those are not ray-finned fish.
Right, yeah. They are the only fish of their family to have melanoforms on their anal fins. Isn't that great?
Of course.
Melanophores
Classic
specifically
pinhead pearlfish.
Melanophores specifically allow fish to change its color from light to dark shades of black and brown. So the most exciting chromatophores. But similar cells give human hair and skin and eye color their color. That's all I got for that. Do you have any big facts?
And that's an anal fin of a different color. The movie ended way differently for me. All right. We're calling this major fact Nature's Pocket. Reef fish, or fish that live in coral reefs, tend to be pretty low on the oceanic food chain. They are usually pretty fast. They can dart into rocks or coral clefts or whatever, but they don't have much in the way of defenses. So what if you instead had a cozy mobile home to slip into when things get dicey? The pearlfish has one. They like to hang out near sea cucumbers and some sea stars. Mostly they're animals that fall into the category of echinoderms. But they're most famously near sea cucumbers. These unfortunate lumps move very slowly on the ocean floor and even they have even fewer defensive options than the fish, which is something that the pearlfish takes full advantage of. So rather than having a brick and mortar house that can't move like your typical fish, the pearlfish chooses an unlucky cucumber to serve as its trailer. And the front door to the pearlfish's trailer is the cucumber's back door. Yep. The pearlfish wriggles its way up the cucumber's tush tunnel. It doesn't just go there when it gets spooked and needs a nice warm hug. It lives there. The reality is the cucumber doesn't really care all that much about the breaking and entering. So in many cases with pearlfish, it's a situation of commensalism, commensalism is where one species benefits and the other species, it doesn't matter. Like there's no benefit, there's no whatever the opposite of a benefit is. A con. Help me out. What's the opposite of a benefit?
A negative, a drawback.
A drawback. There we go. There's no drawbacks. There's no. It doesn't matter. It's kind of like those birds that hang out on the backs of like water buffalo and stuff like that. Back when we talked about the Ethiopian wolf and the way that it hunts by hanging out near herds of cattle. The cattle don't benefit at all from this, but the Ethiopian wolf certainly does. But members of our particular genus, Encheleophis, they tend to snack on the insides of their host, making it a parasite. And we love parasites here on Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's kind of like living in just the most disgusting gingerbread house and eating it from the inside. Like that Indian prince that tells Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka to build him a chocolate palace. But this is a very different kind of chocolate. Like most parasites, it's important not to kill your host so that you don't have to keep finding a new trailer to eat every time. So it snacks on the cucumber's gonads. This just keeps getting better and better. It renders it infertile, but it keeps it alive. So I mean, today it's the middle of October. We are getting this is horror month. We are getting close to the end of getting close to Halloween here. The pinhead pearlfish is a snakefish that climbs into the cheek tube of a helpless vegetable and then eats it from the inside out. So not cool. Please cancel this fish. But yeah, that's what I got. I hope that was tasteful enough.
I mean, the fish thinks it's tasteful.
It sure does. Do you got anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. So that was the pinhead pearlfish. for you out there in podcast land. Keep an eye out for danger. Stay close to your favorite living sleeping bag. And always know where base is when you're playing the terrible game of Tookus Tag that the Pinhead Pearlfish plays here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
I found an interesting article called The Absurd Truth Behind Collective Animal Nouns. I like this one part of it that says, who decides on the right collective noun for something? The short answer is no one.